Hello, and welcome to Discover Stories on Reimagine Radio. I'm your host, Sean Burdett. Today we have a very special guest, the Honorable Dan Coulter. Dan is a current member of the Legislative Assembly for Chilliwack, serving as the Parliamentary Secretary for Accessibility, supporting the Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. How's it going?
Very well, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, just getting started here, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Um, my name is Dan Coulter. I'm Parliamentary Secretary for Accessibility. I'm a MLA in the BC NDP Government Caucus, which I'm very excited about. I, I went to school in Abbotsford, which is just really very, very close to where I'm living now, and I worked in the trades, and I was hurt in a work accident, and now I use a wheelchair.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your disability?
Yeah, so I'm a T3, T4 spinal cord injury. So that's a paraplegic. I use a wheelchair. I was injured in 1999 on the job, and yeah, so I've used a wheelchair now for about 22 years, and yeah, so that's about it.
Following your accident, how did your disability initially change your life?
Oh yeah, well, so I was fairly young. I was 25 years old. My job was a very physical job. I was in the trades. I was a red seal millwright, and all my hobbies and passions were very physical: fishing and hiking um, and back country camping, all those sorts of things. So it was a huge adjustment to get used to as a especially in my I guess mid 20s. So yeah, it really changed my life. And in fact, I probably and it's changed it in a myriad of ways, but I probably wouldn't be an elected official had I not been injured. It did afford me, the opportunity to go back to university and get a lot more interested in my community and in politics, and really what led me to first run for school board. I was a school trustee for 7 years as well, and then now to be an MLA. So yeah, it's almost like two different lives separated by a industrial accident.
Wow, it really does sound like an incredible transition. Could you talk a little bit more? I mean, how did you go from someone who was in the trades to going right into politics?
Well, yeah, I didn't go right into politics, so I I went through all my rehab and doing those sorts of things, and I was interested in politics. We've always talked politics around my dinner table as a kid, and I'd go and put out signs and argue with my grandparents, as everyone does, and and what really got me starting to think about politics more and really caring and seeing that it does, you know government policy does change people's lives materially, right? And really affects people's lives. And what really made me realize that was my mom used to work at the hospital. And so she was a member of the Hospital Employees Union. And in 2002 or three, the government of the day, they basically reduced their wages by 15%. They basically tore up their collective agreement, reduced their wages by 15%, and made them pay the 15% that they had received to that date from the time they had signed their agreement. And my mom was fairly close to retirement, within 10 or 15 years. And so it was quite a hit on her. And I could see that really got me thinking differently about politics. As well, I went back to university and I took political science and history. And so that got me really feeling, thinking about politics as well. And so one day I went into an NDP campaign office and I never left, is the way I put it. I've been volunteering on campaigns and involved in politics ever since, running for school board, being the school trustee for 7 years, and then eventually putting my name forward in this last provincial election.
Right on. It looks like it really worked out for you.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say it that way. This is definitely a dream job for me. Every day I wake up and pinch myself. I can't believe that I'm doing this, and I get to go into the people's houses, we often refer to it, and speak about my community and my community's issues, and also about things that I really care about, like accessibility and labor rights and workplace safety. And so it's super exciting. There's only 87 people in the entire province who are ever allowed to go into that chamber and speak to the issues that are important to their community. And so it's really amazing. I think there's less or around 1,000 total people that have been elected and been able to do that in the province. So it's amazing. It's an incredible honor, and I'm thankful for it every day.
Absolutely. You touched on this a little bit earlier about how following your disability, you had to make a lot of lifestyle changes in terms of like the hobbies that you could engage in. Whatever sort of lifestyle changes did you have to make as a result of your disability?
Well, so I think when I was first hurt, I was in denial. So I thought I could do a lot of the same things I could do, and for some period of the time I could. It required a lot of assistance from friends and stuff. But, there were some things I could still do, go fishing and do those things. And occasionally I still do that. But really, I guess my hobbies, went more towards politics, really. I mean, politics is my hobby and my job, both at the same time. So if I'm not doing this, then I'm, reading about politics. Reading books about politics, listening to podcasts about politics, etc. So, yeah, I would say it's both my hobby and my job right now. And actually, no, I do. I always play it down, but I do have a shop, and I have a welder. I used to be a B-ticketed welder as well. Well, not used to be. I guess I still have a B-ticket welding certification. And so I like to go into my shop, and even if I'm not creating like little projects, I like to just weld bits of steel together. It doesn't sound like fun, maybe when you put it that way, but it is a lot of fun.
No, I absolutely get it. I can see it being very cathartic. Moving on to just the current day now, what are your current responsibilities as the Parliamentary Secretary for Accessibility?
Well, my current responsibilities as the Parliamentary Secretary for Accessibility is that my job is to make sure that people understand, and that understand the Accessible BC Act, as well as making sure that legislation is the most effective it can be. As you know, we passed accessibility legislation in June of this year, and so now it's enabling legislation. So now our work is to basically fill out the standards and regulations in that legislation, and so most of the work is ahead of us, but it's very exciting work, and it's it's starting to move. As well as my other responsibility is to consult on the building codes. We're going to have a new iteration of the building codes, and so my job is to consult on how to make the building codes more accessible. And because we want British Columbia to be the most accessible province in the country.
Absolutely. So to that end, what sort of changes is the government enacting to better the lives of individuals with disabilities?
Well, as far as the act is concerned, it's an enabling act, so it only enables the province to begin developing standards and regulations, and so we're beginning that work. In other jurisdictions where they have accessibility legislation, which ours is patterned off of, a standard in an area, say, such as the built environment or customer service or something, can take up to 2 years, although our legislation does have the opportunity where we can adopt standards from other jurisdictions if they make sense for BC. So, that work's beginning, but at the same time, our government is focused on identifying, removing, and preventing barriers for folks' participation, meaningful and full participation in their communities. And so, we're doing things such as, this year we gave Small Business BC $3.8 million to give to small businesses, so that they could make their businesses more accessible workplaces. So, the Ministry of Environment has made our parks more accessible. We now have, for instance, just next door to my community, we have cabins at Cultus Lake that are more accessible, that are actually wheelchair and mobility aid friendly. They've made accessible outhouses, washrooms, just up the highway from me as well. Parks Canada, the Advanced Education Ministry of Advanced Education is doing great work to make universities and colleges more accessible, post-secondary institutions more accessible. So our government is doing a lot of work on the accessibility front, but at the same time, we're very excited about this legislation. We really think this legislation will be transformative in people's lives and transformative to BC as a whole. 926,000 British Columbians over the age of 15 identify as having a disability, and they have support networks and people who support them, as well as everyone's going to age at some time. So this legislation is going to be important in all British Columbians' lives, and we're quite excited about it.
Absolutely. Has your disability influenced the perspective that you bring to your work, and how so?
Oh, obviously. I mean, everyone's lived experience, no matter what it is they bring to their work. Mine is a little more, I guess, on point or on the nose, if you will, given my job as Parliamentary Secretary of Accessibility. But it definitely gives an insight into barriers in our community, and barriers that can prevent people from fully participating in the community. For instance, if I go someplace, wherever I go, I'll circle the building in my car to see if is there good parking here, is there curb cuts where I need them, where's the front door, how far, all these different kind of calculations I make. And in the past, I have gone places and then just turned around and went home because I could see that it was there was no curb cut, or there was no place for me to park because the parking spots were too narrow, or whatever. So I do bring a perspective, a lived experience with me into accessibility work, so that I do understand. It may be a lot, I understand it in a way my other colleagues probably wouldn't.
For sure. What do you find to be the most rewarding aspect of your line of work?
Oh, I just, talking with different groups, disability advocates, activists is super exciting for me. Getting this legislation going is super exciting. And to see other people out in the community excited about this legislation, and excited about, the work I'm doing, and excited that we have a parliamentary secretary for accessibility. People are really excited about that. I guess that is the most rewarding aspect of my work, is just seeing the general excitement about what we're doing, and also getting to talk to as many people as possible.
What do you feel has been the hardest part about your disability?
The hardest part of my disability, I guess, is general mobility. People who use wheelchairs will understand this, right? Like when we buy a vehicle, we can't just go onto a lot and start test driving vehicles. It doesn't work that way. You know, vehicles don't just come with hand controls or systems in order to get our wheelchairs in them. So I'd say, buying a car and getting a car outfitted is pretty frustrating. I suppose, housing can be the same thing. There's a lot of different, barriers and things that people wouldn't necessarily think about unless they do have that disability.
Absolutely. Building on that, is there anything that you've learned about yourself or maybe about society from living with your disability?
I mean, I guess, and this is why I'm excited about the work we're going to do, because I think, society in the past, I'm not saying now, but in the past has viewed disability or accessibility, making things accessible as kind of an expense or somehow different. And I think part of our legislation is going to be breaking down those attitudinal barriers in a way that people just, design or build things or, make life so that it works for everyone. And that's possible without creating extra expense, right? Just thinking about how to make things, work for everyone so that there are no barriers for folks to participate. And so I think that's going to be quite, that's going to be quite challenging, but I'm excited about it. And so I think I've learned about societies that hasn't always been the case. But I'm excited to remove those barriers for sure.
Of course. Dan, I understand that this is a very busy time of year for you and your team, so I really do appreciate you coming on. Just winding down on this interview, one last question for you. Is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners, perhaps a young individual with a disability that's aspiring to become a politician?
Sure. So, if you're interested in politics, I would say get out there, volunteer, figure out which political party shares your values or most closely mirrors your values, and get out there and volunteer for them. Find your local constituency association or your local campaign office and give them a hand. It doesn't have to be a political party either. It could be a municipal candidate that you're excited about. And there's always volunteering opportunities for people of all abilities on political campaigns. I've never seen a political campaign turn away a volunteer. So there's plenty of opportunity, and that's probably the best way to really get your foot in the door of politics.
Of course. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you letting me pick your brain for a little bit.
Awesome. No, thank you for having me, Sean.
No worries. This has been Sean Burdett on Discover Stories. You guys have a great day today.